guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing something that I've wanted to get for the longest time. Now because I couldn't wait any longer, I decided to finally just pull the trigger and go out and buy one, knowing that I've got a lot of DIY projects that I want to do coming up. Now what I'm talking about is none other than a 3D printer, which is something that I've been waiting to get for many years now. So in today's video, I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing the Ender-3 Pro 3D printer. Now this is probably one of the more affordable entry-level 3D printers out there, and from what I've heard, it's one of the best choices for newbie 3D printer users like myself. So stay tuned and we'll unbox this, set it up, and test it to see how well it works. Now first things first, before I free this printer from its packaging. I've seen a ton of videos where this printer model is the 3D printer of choice because of its affordability and the number of capabilities it has for the price. Now I'll be completely honest that I don't know anything about 3D printers except for the fact that I'll probably have a lot of uses for it. Now aside from test printing my first 3D printed object, my plan is to use this 3D printer to print parts for my custom hydroponic grow garden towers, which is something that I've gotten interested in lately. In addition to that, I also plan to use this printer to print a bunch of little doohickeys and parts that I'm going to experiment with as I get more experience using this 3D printer. Now I bought this directly from Ender's website, which I'll also leave a link to it in the description section below. This thing cost about $200, not including the additional filaments and accessories that I also purchased. Now I don't know about you, but I remember when these 3D printers were super expensive, which is why I held off buying them until now. I figured for the affordable price of $200, I could probably use this one to see how well it works and if it'll serve the purpose that I need it for, and then potentially upgrade in the future once I get the hang of it to the more expensive and the more feature-rich printers that are available. So let's go ahead and unbox this to see what it comes with, then assemble it and hopefully do a successful first print. Okay, so it comes in a pretty plain box, so, as not to draw attention to itself, I guess. So let's go ahead and open this box. And I gotta say, the packaging, or at least the printer with the packaging, isn't that heavy, so that's always a nice thing. So I can always move this printer around once it's assembled. Okay, so it comes with some foam packaging, of course, to keep the hardware safe. Let's see, it comes with your instruction manual as well as a contact card. So your typical assembly and usage instruction manual. And then of course the printer itself. So this looks like the LED and controller board itself, which comes, I guess this thing comes completely disassembled, so you're gonna have to be careful once you start unboxing and unpackaging this thing. Okay, it's got this print tray with a little magnetic mat on top of it, which I guess is nice. And I'm a little nervous to damage some of this stuff, but gotta take it out of the box somehow, so let's take this thing out first. So this looks like it's the power supply. That also has the power plug in it. So it looks like this is brushed aluminum metal. This is the upper tray, upper piece of it, or the base. And these are I think this is the print head itself. So want to be careful with that. It smells like a new car, actually. Okay. And then you've got, this looks like a motor of some kind, so I guess you attach the print head to this, and this is the motor, but we'll find out. This is my first 3D printer, so I don't know what anything is. Okay, and then there's a second layer of parts, so again, some other type of guide. Power plug. Don't know what this is. Looks like you've got the included filament and some extra parts. Looks like the screws, twisty ties, and tools. A handle of some sort. A spatula. I guess this is to use to scrape your 3D printed object off of the plate if needed. And then more bars wrapped in plastic. You know, this plastic wrap is kind of annoying, but it's because it's super sticky, but I guess it's good for packaging and keeping things together. Okay, so we'll take that out. Okay, I guess that's it. So let's go ahead and take away the box. Okay, so this is a view of pretty much all of the parts and components that come in the box. Now, from what I read online, the Ender series of 3D printers is the printer of choice for a number of reasons. One, because it's super affordable, coming in at around $200. Two, because apparently it's easy to assemble, which we'll find out in a little bit. Three, it can print high quality objects, again at a reasonably affordable price. Four, it's a pretty reliable printer that has great community support. And five, which is probably one of the more popular reasons for why people choose this printer, is because it's easily hackable and upgradable. So that's the main benefit of probably why everyone chooses this printer, aside from its affordability. Now, when it comes to assembly, it's said that if you can assemble an IKEA piece of furniture, which I guess is a challenge for some people, but lucky for me, I like to assemble furniture from IKEA. Well, they said you should have no issues assembling this printer if you can put together an IKEA piece of furniture. So let's find out if it's as easy as they say. Okay, so let's go ahead and use the instructions because again, you know, I don't want to waste money or break this because this is my first 3D printer. Okay, so this is the parts list and the assembly instructions, which is pretty nicely detailed and it's colorful, so that's always a good thing. All right, so let's see. I think we've got all the components according to this spec sheet. Let's go with step one, which will be 16 and 15, which I believe are these. And we'll turn the bed away from us. Let's see, I like to usually put it the same direction as the picture itself. So long end comes towards me. So that's these two parts. There's this piece that keeps popping out of it, so. Okay, so we need 4 screws. And I'm probably not going to use power tools to assemble this, just because you probably don't need it. But I could be wrong, but we'll find out in a little bit. Okay, so these longer screws. Okay, and when tightening these, you want to make sure they're super tight because this printer does move and gyrate, so you don't want these parts coming loose. Okay, again, make sure this is tight. First will be the control panel. So never tighten the screws before you've got it perfectly situated. And I like the symmetry that they've got for the bolts on each end. So that's why they didn't have you screw in all 4 bolts, because then it wouldn't be symmetrical. Okay, so the control panel is secured. Now for the power supply. Okay, power supply is secure. And I'm gonna guess maybe this barcode is for the software, but we'll find out after we've got this all assembled. Tool as well, a little cutter tool. This could come in handy for a lot of different projects, so that's pretty nice. All right, so they do give you some starter filament. Okay, so we're supposed to loosen this up and it needs to be horizontal because it's supposed to be able to track up and down this thing. So I guess maybe once one of them's in there, it makes it easier. Okay, and you'll drop this down as far as you can go and the notch will just stop it at the bottom. So I'm going to assume this is the right way to go. And it's best to install it from the top because at least you'll know that the tightening plates are horizontal, which it should be, because in the diagram it says they can't be vertical. And because if it is vertical, this thing's not going to stay in place. so that's secure. I think the piece that keeps popping in and out that I think I was supposed to take that out. Okay, so lesson learned. You're going to need to take that straw piece out of this tube before you assemble this. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that here, because now I'm going to have to turn this thing upside down to get that straw out. Alright, so this needs to come out of there. I think it just sits in there, it doesn't really screw in or anything. This is probably the most complicated piece to install. So instruction-wise, it would be good if they labeled what goes on first, but I guess it's easy to figure out and not too complicated to go back if you do accidentally put one part on first out of order. Okay, so that is done now. And then we gotta put, okay, so that is secured now. So we need the belt actually. And I guess it would be nice to know how these pieces are supposed to connect. So I'm gonna guess the way this connects is it just clamps down right here. Okay, so this is now tight on there. That is probably the hardest part to get on. And this tool kind of sucks because it warps out of place. Hopefully this is good enough. Okay, so that's fixed now and it gives it a longer cable. I'm gonna untangle this. Okay, now it should all work. Again, with these instructions that don't, okay, I'll probably connect that underneath because it's going to rub on that conveyor belt there. Okay, these are definitely instructions you're going to want to hold on to because of the connectors. Alright, so it looks like you can also have some additional inputs for this to connect other things, so I'm not sure exactly what that is because I'm not an engineer, so I don't know what those extra plugs are for. Okay, I think I've got all the cables connected to this thing. And I think it's ready. So, looks like we do have some extra parts here. I don't think I ever, oh, I think this is used for later in case I need to use these twisty ties for cable management. But I'm not going to cable management until I figure out how this works a little bit. But yeah, I guess we're all set up. Alright, so the tray moves back and forward, this moves up and down. Got a place for the spool of material, and everything else is trash. So this is it's an SD card with a SD card USB converter for an SD card. So not too bad. And then this SD card is 8 gigs. Okay, so this is the Ender-3 Pro 3D printer fully assembled. Now I gotta say, it wasn't that easy, but then again, it also wasn't really too complicated to put together. What I also found out after the fact was that this included SD card that comes with the printer itself does have a number of different guides, support, and assembly videos on it, which were, I guess, super helpful after the fact. It's also got some templates for objects that you can print to test out the printer itself. Now because I'm still new to 3D printing, I also did check out some resources online as well as some other videos, and I found a number of guides and videos with links to calibration and setup templates, which I use to calibrate this printer. Now one of the things that I did find out that I did not realize or that weren't mentioned in the easy setup instructions is that you do have to adjust and set up the printer in order to prepare it to print. So hopefully to help you out, I've also included in the description section below a link to some templates and good starter and setup videos that I found that were pretty helpful and easy for me to understand. The videos I found also provided instructions and tips to set up, calibrate, and use the printer for the first time. So hopefully those will also help you if this is your first time using a 3D printer like myself. Now with that in mind, let's go ahead and check out what's on this SD card using the included USB card reader, and then find a simple object for us to print on this new 3D printer of mine. Okay, so before we go ahead and print what we saved onto this little SD card, let's talk about the specs of the printer a little bit. From a specs perspective, this printer has a print volume of 220 by 220 by 250 millimeters. That in itself should be a good size for most projects at any kind of level, including the beginner level. It's also got a single 0.4 millimeter nozzle and can support filaments of up to 1.75 millimeters. Now what's good about this printer is that it also supports virtually all types of filaments, which is nice to have because it gives you that variability of what you can print. Now the print bed itself heats up to a temperature of about 110 degrees Celsius, which is about 230 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the printer itself does have a built-in SD card reader, so what that means is you can go ahead and save your projects to this SD card and connect it to the printer itself and print directly from the SD card. It's also got an LCD screen on the front, which makes it easy to manage or print your jobs. Now because this 3D printer is somewhat of an entry-level printer and because it's on the low-end version of the totem pole, one thing that I do expect is that it'll take just a little bit longer than the newer and more expensive versions of 3D printers to print your projects. Now I don't know how long in actuality, although the software does give you an estimate, but I'm not expecting that things are going to print very fast in a couple of minutes. They may take longer than expected. And then for the things that I do want to print, for example, the new parts for my custom hydroponics towers, I'm not expecting that those will print quickly and may even take several hours. But now that this printer is all assembled, let's go ahead and take our little saved object and test out this printer to see how it works. Okay, so we've plugged the printer in, and we're going to use the sample filament that came with the printer itself because I guess the extra filament that I ordered is being shipped in a separate package, so it won't arrive for a couple of days. So I'm going to go ahead and put this. Okay, and then you feed the filament through the back tube over here. So what I learned from more professional YouTubers who specialize in 3D printing is when you're setting this up, you need to use a piece of paper, place it on the bed itself, and the print head needs to be just a piece of paper distance away from the bed in order to make sure you get the best quality print. So the way you adjust this, because right now it's not close enough, is you use the dials on the bottom of the print bed to adjust the bed up and down until the print head is just barely touching the bed, but allows you to still pull this piece of paper out with a little bit of give. And you do that for all four corners to make sure that it's equal on all four corners. But then I also learned that not all print beds come fully flat and some may be a little bit warped, so it'll never be a perfect print, but the idea is to get it as close as possible so you can get the best print quality of the object you're trying to print. So I'll go ahead and leave a link to that video in the description section below because they probably explained it a lot better than I did. Okay, so what I found out was I forgot to convert the test file into a G-code file, which is something you have to do with the slicer software. Okay, so now that I've got it, let's go ahead and stick the media in so we can test out this printer. Okay, so print from media, and it's X file, X code. And let's see if it works. Okay, so it looks like the head is heating up. All right, and it's got this burning smell coming out of it, I guess because there's a lot of heat going in. And as you can tell, it's not the quietest of printer because the fan is pretty loud. That's cooling the print head as well as the bed. But it's getting pretty hot, this bed. It's supposed to take 2 minutes and 16 seconds according to this. So I'm not sure what it's doing. So I guess the one thing that would be helpful is it did come with a pamphlet with instructions instead of having to go and search. So I don't know if I'm supposed to feed more cable into it or what. Well, I see some filament dripping out. It's like a hot glue gun. Okay, I'm not understanding it. Alright, so now that it's done printing, this cube took about 20 minutes to print, and as you can see, it turned out pretty nice. The printer definitely works well, and for the first attempt, I think I calibrated and set it up pretty well. All thanks to the help of the resources that I found, which again are linked in the description section below. Now overall, I think for a $200 3D printer, this Ender-3 Pro is definitely something that I'd recommend you buy if you're in the market for one. In fact, I can see why most people would recommend this printer for people who are new to 3D printing. It's easy to use, it's easy to set up, and virtually does everything you want it to and has a ton of features. Not only is the price affordable, but it's also got a ton of capabilities and features, and you also have options to upgrade this printer as well. So in the end, I definitely recommend it, and I can see why it is the printer of choice. Sure, there are a lot of printers out there that are much better, but none that are quite as affordable as this one that has the same amount of features. Skipping ahead, I have been playing with this printer for the past few days, and not only have I printed this cube, but other things as well. Now I've had a few fails, but that really wasn't because of the printer, but more because of the file that I used for the printer itself. I also learned that all of the prints have this little base that's printed on it, and you simply just need to rip these off, which isn't always easy, in order to get what you actually printed. So that's another tip, I guess, for all you new users is it'll print a base on the object you're actually trying to print so that it sticks to the table itself. And you'll need to use this little spatula type thing to scrape it off and pull it off if you can't pull it off with your hands. Over the last couple of days, I also ended up buying a ton more filament, and I may have actually gone overboard so that I can start printing anything that I want, because I did find a lot of templates that I want to use. So I have colored filaments, I have the PLA filaments, I have, what's this? I have the PETG filaments, which the difference between the PLA and the PETG, from what I understand, is the PETG is just more durable and lasts longer. You know, it can withstand a lot of different things like heat and be outdoors. And because I'm planning to start printing my hydroponic towers, I decided to get this PETG filament, which will be a little bit more durable for those types of prints. I also bought some colored filaments in case I want to print different colored things. One thing I saw was an Iron Man suit, so I'm going to try to print that as well. I don't think I'll be able to print it all, and I may have to upgrade the 3D printer in the future, but I'm going to try to print what I can on this one. But what I understand is it can do it, it'll just take a little bit longer. Now this cube only took 20 minutes to print, but things like the hydroponic tower parts that I found will probably take upwards of 60 hours potentially on this 3D printer. So you definitely will need to have some patience when doing a 3D print. Now I'd say aside from hydroponics, this is probably going to become one of my new hobbies and pastimes for at least the next couple of months. But I can combine both hobbies and build a lot of DIY components using this 3D printer. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing what I come up with. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I definitely learned a lot, and I'll be using this a lot, especially for printing the parts for my new custom hydroponics towers, as well as a lot of other DIY projects. Now, as usual, please support this channel by smashing that like button and subscribing to help with that YouTube algorithm. Make sure you also ring that bell icon so you get notified when I post new content as well, especially since I'm going to be posting more hydroponics videos as well as DIY print videos. If you've got any tips, tricks, or recommendations, or even suggestions for how I can better use this Ender-3 Pro printer, or any useful links and resources, please leave me a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, see ya.